Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. With your host, Berserker, this is Unshackled Fury.
The gardens are noble, the annulets are annuletting, and heritage armors have finally come home. So welcome back to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions, Unshackled Fury. I'm your host, Berserker. This is episode 124. And on today's show, I'm finally diving into the human heritage armor and give you my thoughts on that whole event, as well as patch 10.0.7's hits, misses, and otherwise, and a few other items around the community I thought were of interest that you may or may not have missed. But first, hope you all enjoyed Saturday Night Special, aka Unshackled Sugar. Come on now. April 1st comes rolling around. You know I'm going to do something. On vacation or not. I think last year I retired from the show to open up a beachside yoga studio or some crazy thing. So obviously that wasn't real. And Unshackled Sugar, not a real show, but that was a real recipe. And that was a real recipe from a real book that I do have in this house. So if you ever wanted to eat the gray stuff from Beauty and the Beast, you know, in the song, they say the gray stuff is delicious. You know what? The gray stuff is fucking delicious. And it comes on this whole cookie thing, and it is fantastic. So, albeit that was an April Fool's deal, it was a real recipe. So, you know what? Give it a try. I hope you like it. But yes, I was out on vacation. The last real episode of this show that occurred was way back about a month ago with our good buddy Jez Corden. I want to thank him again for coming on the show and for the response. And every time he comes on, I always see the numbers start ticking up. So, you know, maybe we'll have to take him up on his offer to show up a little more often. But yes, want to thank him for coming on the show and having a little fun and helping cover some time for me while I was out recharging, relaxing, trying to forget about the world for a while on a sunny beach far, far away. And of course, I got a chance to do that, come back, and then what happens? You get sick. So you'll still hear it. There's still a little thing in my nose, still a little hitch in my giddy up in my throat here somewhere. So fighting off the last vestiges of some nasty thing that came through that was not COVID. Was something else. So this episode is coming a slight bit delayed just because I needed an extra day to recover so I could at least talk and kind of get through things a little bit more normally. So always fun to come back, but we're here. We're still going. We got lots of stuff going on. We're right in the thick of it, folks. We're still in this crazy renaissance that Warcraft is experiencing right now, where they just keep charging ahead. More content rolling out all the time. I feel lost, honestly, sometimes because there's so much now that I still am not caught up. There's still stuff from the original release that I have not finished, that I have not gotten to, I have not had the chance to do yet. And here we are, another sort of semi-patch rolling out, but with a whole bunch of content. And then a big one coming right around the corner. And we'll get to that. But nonetheless, back in action to talk about all the fun things here. And one of the things that you may also want to check out, besides this fantastic episode, is I was recently on, I can't believe I'm saying this, The Tauren and the Goblin as a longtime horde denier, somehow I was convinced to go on that show, and it didn't take a whole lot of arm twisting. Nick over there, who we've crossed paths a bunch of different times, kind of out here in the community, and he came to me with a great idea for doing the Dragonflight Observer Awards, which is a sort of a wrestling take on some Dragonflight and Warcraft stuff, and we had a great time chopping it up and talking about Dragonflight, things that we thought were some of the highlights so far, but putting them in a more wrestling sort of way. But I had a lot of fun. It's a great show. It's been around quite a while. Nick, I think, honestly, has one of the best voices in all of Warcraft podcasting. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please go do so. It's a great show over there at the Tauren and the Goblin, and had a great time guesting with him. So Nick, if you hear this, thanks again. It was a blast, an honor to be on there, and I'm sure we'll catch up again another time. And one more thing that I wanted to mention before we head into this week's Rage session is that there is a new album out. And I don't really talk about a lot of the metal stuff on this show as much as I used to, because there is this, sort of heavy metal nexus with Warcraft and the show and everything else, but I don't really focus on it all that much. But one of the big four, and if you're into heavy metal, you know what I'm talking about. Metallica has a new album out, 72 Seasons. And now I know there are people that are like, I only own the first 4 albums, man, and those are the only real Metallica albums. Okay, all right, I got it. I know who you are. I love you. It's okay. If you're one of those, this is not for you. But if you're anybody else and you're into just classic sound of heavy metal from one of the bands who's done it the best for the longest, there's a new Metallica album, 72 Seasons, and it is pretty fucking good. Is it a 10 out of 10? Listen, it's not Master of Puppets, but it's pretty solid. And all the way through, there's some longer songs, there's some quicker songs, there's a couple slower songs. But overall, just want to throw a shout out, one of the biggest and the baddest, Metallica, and then a new album coming out. I wish they would have a show that was closer to Northern California. You fuckers, you're only home based out an hour away from my house, and the closest show is 9 hours away. That's okay. I'll forgive you for now. So after you check out the rest of this episode, and then you go over to the Tauren and the Goblin, then you hit up 72 Seasons. That's your listening agenda for this week, folks. And thank you for your patronage. So with that, why don't we head into something that I feel has not been talked about, something that's very important for us Warcraft players. And I had to put this one off a little bit, but I'm not going to let it go because it deserves to be addressed. So let's jump into it. Let's rage. If you, like me, have ever perused the Blizzard Gear store or bought anything from them, there is a chance that you have received one of their many emails for new stuff that's on sale, whatever. Now, there could be a whole rage section about the number of emails that I get from the new Blizzard Gear store. But to be fair, I could just unsubscribe from them all, and then that wouldn't be a problem. So that's not it. No. We have something a little more specific. So a couple weeks ago, I see in my email another one of these damn near daily emails pop up from the Blizzard Gear store that says, "Sip in style with new Blizzard tumblers." Now, I'm a sucker for a good beverage container. I have more coffee cups than I have any right to own. I have thrown away so many glasses and boxed up so many other drinkware out there that I probably should legally be barred from ever buying anything else that I could put a beverage in. But Be that as it may, I am not. So whenever I see something like this, I go, oh shit, I gotta check it out. It could be something super cool. I load up the email. The images weren't loading, but there was a link. Hey, go straight to the Tumblr. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So I go to the page. I see there's a whole bunch there. And I go, oh, look at this. Overwatch. Overwatch has one in this sort of nice, sort of like steel gray color. Oh, that's cool. Diablo. I bet you can guess what color that one's in. Black. Super cool. Heroes of the Storm, a game that really isn't even made anymore. I think it's in what they call maintenance mode. Has this really lovely dark blue color. Very nice. Hearthstone, still going strong. Has that light. That's a Blizzard blue color, you know, kind of like a sky blue, not quite a baby blue, you know, pleasant, very pleasant. StarCraft, beloved StarCraft franchise, has a sort of blue-gray almost. Very, very beautiful. Probably the most beautiful of all the colors. And then we get to the Warcraft one. And the color of this stainless steel Warcraft 18-ounce mug, I can only describe to you as food truck diarrhea brown. It's not a real color. It's certainly not anything that I would want to put a beverage in that I would want to drink out of. It's not quite copper. It's not quite bronze. It's just awful shit brown. And of all the colors that they could have picked, and if you look at the family of colors here, it makes absolutely no sense. It's hideous. As a warrior who plays Warcraft now, I'm already saddled with, of all the class colors, being everything under the sun and warriors. What do we get? Shit brown. Brown. I mean, maybe you could say that it's the most warrior color that they could pick for Warcraft mugs, and I should be honored. No, I am not. It's ugly as sin. And I don't know who signed off on this. You look down, further down the list, they have a Horde one, they have an Alliance one, you know, classic colors there, black and red, blue and gold, you know, and then there's some other ones down there. But Warcraft has such a beautiful palette. You could pick any one of a number of 50 other colors, and I would have been okay with it. Hot pink, neon green, I would have rolled with it somehow. But this food truck diarrhea brown stainless steel mug will not be joining in my collection. And I recommend that you do not put this in yours either, because there is a very strong connection between sight and taste. And if something looks like shit, it will taste like shit. And I don't know about you, but when I'm pouring in that spicy water, or in this case, like a Coke Zero, I want it to taste like that, not like it came out of a latrine. Warcraft deserves better. Blizzard Gear Store, you have once again fallen down on the job. They should take this down immediately and recolor that to Alliance blue. I'd maybe put a little Horde black in there. That would be fantastic. And now, with that being said, we have some real news to get onto. Some awesome things going on in game. It's still a busy time here for us in Dragonflight. So why don't we go ahead and jump into our news. So at long last, after many months of evading, dodging every spoiler I possibly could, finally got a chance to dive into the Human Heritage Armor questline. I was very excited to get in and take a look at this. As soon as I got back from vacation, it was the very first thing I did, being that I met the requirements of being a human and above level 50. And I headed over to Stormwind, where I found our old buddy, Matthias Shaw, and went about on my way. So first things first, surprise, at least to me, was the title. By the end of this, to skip to the end, you end up with the Lion's Guard title, which overall, thematically, perfect. Since Varian has a title already related to him back in, I believe it was a Warlords PvP title that I biffed it on. And Anduin is not part of this quest line. I was curious if there was going to be any Rin family connections to this quest line, and there were not. So Lion's Guard title, putting it all together, I thought fitting. We'll do it. We'll work it. The fit. I'll give the rating for my thoughts on the armor itself. But just off the top, I thought Lion's Guard, not a bad title for finishing up. But let's jump into the quest line, which I was a bit surprised to see where we went. Again, I thought, is there going to be some sort of Rin family connection? And no. In fact, it ended up being more of a Van Cleef family connection, where this quest line really did take us back to the beginning, way back to the vanilla era, to the classic era of World of Warcraft, whatever you want to call it, where the majority of the quests, in fact, I think all of them, took place between Stormwind, the Hellwind Forest and its greater areas, and Westfall, where, frankly, I haven't been in a long ass time. Down into the Dead Mines, where I had my very first dungeon run with 2 other warriors, and the 3 of us had no fucking clue what we were doing. And, you know, that's where we ended up dying very quickly. But I guess it technically wasn't in the Dead Mines. It was Moonbrook, you know, the whole town that's above it. But where did it take us? Well, we started in Stormwind, where it turns out a very powerful and important artifact that either you didn't know about or haven't thought about in 1,000 years was stolen. The Drakefire Amulet. And what in the hell is that? Well, if you go way back. Remember Onyxia? Does that name sound familiar? Well, it should. Well, Onyxia, one time, spent a lot of time in Stormwind Keep. We were like, hey, why is there a big black dragon in here? Well, there wasn't a big black dragon in there. At least it didn't look like one. Instead, we had Lady Katrana Prestor, who through the power of this magic Drakefire Amulet, this powerful Drakefire Amulet, was able to change shape and influence people such as our beloved Bolvar, and into worming herself into a position of authority until it was uncovered. And then we did battle there in Stormwind Keep, and it was pretty crazy if you ever got to do it. And there's, you know, dragon going wild and people battling it and guards dying, and I mean it was pretty sweet. If you ever got to do it, it was pretty fun. But what it centered on was not just the fact that that was the amulet and this has been hidden away and now it's been stolen and clearly somebody wants it for some reason, but it focused on a character that was there, about Reginald Windsor, who was killed in this battle. And there's a bit of, it's not retcon, but when you go through all of the history of Warcraft, it's who is responsible for the death of Onyxia, right? We have the chronicles that have come out over time, and they've tried to kind of true up all of our stories, who's actually responsible for winning major battles. And, you know, over the years, was it us, the unnamed adventurer? Was it Varian? Was it Bolvar? Right? All of these various people have a hand in this. Well, there is an attempt here to try to keep the memory of Reginald Windsor alive and his role in all of this, you know. And so why is this character important? Why are they bringing this up? Well, there's a hope through this quest that somehow Windsor might have known some more information about this amulet. How did they suss out that Onyxia was who she was and what was going on? And so off we go to search for this information, and through these adventures, we come across who? Matthias Shaw and Vanessa Van Cleef, who honestly was looking kind of badass. I don't really have a lot of knowledge about Vanessa Van Cleef. I've never really dealt with her that much, but even while you're sitting there and talking with them in the basement of the Goldshire Inn, and we're getting some of the background from Shaw and Vanessa, she's kind of like twirling a dagger around. It was, you know what? It was pretty badass. I just want to say, just kind of as an aside. And so we talked to the two of them, and they put us on the tale of Cecilia Clessington. We find out her family had fallen from grace, and it seems like her father was probably the one behind this theft. And so we end up going to Moonbrook, where we uncover this plot. And, you know, Count Clessington is trying to rally these Defias Brotherhood members to, you know, rise up. And now we have to try to stamp this down. And so this whole back and forth takes us eventually, which is perfect, from Stormwind out into Elwyn Forest, out into Westfall. We're dealing with some stuff around there, but eventually we end up at one of the most hallowed of all places, Northshire Abbey, where as a human, that's where you begin. The very first thing you see, you're standing out in front of Northshire Abbey as a new recruit. And so you've chased down Count Clessington, and you're trying to get the amulet back, and eventually he dies, and we have to fight a shade of Onyxia. One more battle of Onyxia inside Northshire Abbey. It was pretty cool to see and sort of touch on one more time some of these characters and places that were always part of the, I guess, human, quote unquote, human experience within our game within World of Warcraft. Seeing the interplay between Shaw and Vanessa Van Cleef / Hope Saldine, who she goes on a whole journey where she might be reclaiming her name, or seems like she's reclaiming her true name, and figuring out maybe she has a better place in the community than where she was. The nostalgic run for me, you could have flown, I know, but I just walked. I just ran from Westfall back to Northshire just to see the old places that I haven't seen in a long time. And getting to do that, it brought back a lot of old, familiar, happy feelings. The music, sights, you know, I'm pretty sure this is what it was intended to do. And at the very end, after we've reclaimed the amulet, after we've defeated Count Clessington, as Hope and Cecilia have kind of seen each other as these mirrors, and we've seen a lesson of personal growth along the way, we end up at the very gates of Stormwind, where these Stormwind Knights form like an archway, and you go on this sort of honored walk underneath their archway all the way up. And also you make sure, if you did the right quest choices for text and talking, that you will ask that some sort of memorial for Reginald Windsor be put together, which was also kind of cool. And, you know, kind of touched on a larger issue, maybe remembering veterans and remembering people who've given their lives in service. You know, I don't know if that was totally intentional, but it definitely sort of touched that soft spot for me. But at the very end, getting to have that moment there in the gates of Stormwind, we've been many, many times. It's such a legendary place in Warcraft, but also, you know, for the human race in World of Warcraft, all the things that have happened there. I've seen it crushed by a giant dragon, which is very timely. But to have that honored moment, and then to get your title and to get your Lions Heritage Ensemble, I thought that was very, very cool. Not expecting anything, not knowing anything. And then also, it was pretty neat watching all of the NPCs then not just disappear, but like filter out. They like walked back out to wherever it was that they had to go. I thought that was very well done. So overall, not having any expectations, ultimately not knowing anything, I suppose. I thought it was well done for what it was. I thought it was a complete story, or at least as much as one could be for this. I was a little disappointed that it didn't have anything to do with the Wren family. Clearly, the shoulder is almost dead on for Varian's shoulder, the one that they do. That's the eagle. So I was a little surprised by that, but overall, I thought that what they did, it was great, taking us back to the old places, original baddies, like old stories that really were the foundation of the race for the game, and overall, very happy with that. So then it comes to the actual armor itself. So the helm never really did come around to what I was hoping it would be. It still has this sort of nubby things at the top, and it's kind of flared out in a way at the bottom, and it also hides your facial hair, I think. So that wasn't exactly my favorite. And the shoulder for the eagle head can only be on that one shoulder. You can't switch it, and you can't do it on both. It's locked into that one shoulder, which I kind of wish I'd known about ahead of time, but again, beggars can't be choosers. So overall, at first, I was like, all right, this is a solid 8 out of 10. You know, my Varian Wren fantasy, that's what I wanted. I just wanted his armor. I just wanted them to say, you know what? We found the plans for King Varian's armor, and we're going to give it to you. That's not what happened. But the belt is pretty close. You know, there's no furry tufts on anything. But overall, thematically, like, strong. 8 out of 10. No problem. Then I wore it for a little while. And I hid the helm, transmog. And I have the sort of Varian hair. And I have the Lionheart Executioner. It's Titan's Grip, so I have 2 Lionheart Executioners as my weapon transmog, which, if you've never seen those go way, way, way back. I made those in the BC era when I had to specialize and make those. I thought those were going to be my raid weapons. You had to upgrade them 3 times. It was a whole mess. I put a lot of time and effort into making those, and I still have them in my void storage. So I have those as my transmog. And so sporting those, and I changed out a couple of the pieces within the Heritage Armor set, because they give you several different, not just tints of color, but you have like a couple different belts and a couple different pieces within each set. So I kind of mixed and matched a little bit. And after about a week, all of a sudden, I really started to feel like I looked like Varian Wren. That I spend most of the time looking from behind my character anyway, over his shoulder. And I started to get more of that Varian Wren fantasy that I was looking for. So all in all, at the end of the day, I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I think the transmog on the single shoulder and then the helm, you know, I'm going to have to take a point for that. But the rest of it, it's pretty killer. From the view that I look at most of the time, I really love it. I did say at one point, it's the only transmog I'll ever wear. I don't think that that's true. I'll probably change it out from time to time. But this is one that I will wear quite often. Maybe this is like, you know, my formal attire, whatever you want to call it. But really, really happy with it overall. And I appreciate all of the effort that they put into it, because it shows. Now, again, anybody that's listening to this show knows I am not a Horde person. I don't typically follow a lot of that, but I did dive into the Orc Heritage Armor as well. Now, I didn't play it. I just kind of looked it up and read it, and I was like, oh, what's going on? I watched the video. And for what it's worth, I thought that was pretty cool, too. Brought back Thrall, who I don't know if that's Chris Metzen's voice. I mean, maybe it is, but he sounds different to me. You get recruited by Eitrig, famous orc from Tales of Long Ago. You end up in Alterac Valley talking to Drekthar, God, I love Alterac Valley. It's the only PvP I like. And seeing Drekthar, apparently he's wheelchair bound these days. I don't think I ever knew that. And through a series of events, they're trying to bring back an old tradition, an old like a feast that they had back in the day. And then you have to defeat some of the famous Alterac Valley wolves, and you got to go through some other stuff. Agra, Thrall's wife, gets a promotion. She's now the Farseer, and there's a whole bunch of kind of cool stuff going on there. So I didn't play through it. I can't speak from that perspective, but just in reading through it, I thought that was also a nice touch where there are a lot of famous orcs that we've seen over the years, and you get to talk to them, and they did something meaningful with Thrall's wife, which is probably good. And then you get some honestly pretty sweet armor. It is through and through orc armor. I think that there's, I dare say, may even be more on the money than the human one is, with the spikes and the metal and all that. So kudos to them. If you're an orc, I have to imagine that you're overall pretty happy with all of that. So all in all, worth the wait. And I'm glad that they haven't given up on these, and everybody that has a particular class, or race that they're very fond of deserves the chance to play through something really cool like this. And I'm glad I finally got the chance. And deeper into patch 10.0.7, got a chance to also start playing through the rest of the actual patch itself, not just the human heritage part of it that I wanted to. Going back to the Forbidden Reach, dumping into the Ziskara vaults, and seeing what that was all about. And right off the top, one of the things I wanted to mention was the story campaign, whatever you want to call it, in 10.07. It's not super long. There's not like a whole lot to it. But what of it there is, I thought was pretty cool. Especially when it concerns the character of Emberthal. Now, Emberthal we've seen, and I don't know who does the voice acting for it. And again, the sort of in-game cutscenes and those sorts of things have become just dynamite good. The way that they're able to capture these smaller expressions even better now, I think is fantastic. So we start with essentially a summons, and it kicks off with that cinematic, that great cinematic that we saw where the primal incarnates, they're diving into Notharian's old stomping grounds and trying to uncover secrets and this and that, and we get summoned essentially to help begin to recover parts of the Forbidden Reach. And we come across Emberthal, who explains to us that she and the rest of her kind are trying to really understand how things came to be the way that they are. And there's this very deep soul searching that's going on, and the way that this is conveyed throughout the voiceover and the dialogue that goes on, it's really incredible. And I always heap praise on the voice team and the rest of the folks there, but as time has gone on, they've really found ways to continue to mine into these emotional experiences, because at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're going out there to the islands, we're defeating some dragons. It looks like there's a group of dragons that are now, a group of Drakthir that are really focused on trying to reclaim whatever power was Neltharians, and they're starting to act out and they're killing their own kind, and that's not good. So there isn't a whole lot to it, but we end up fighting off various forces and reclaiming certain areas of the island. We establish a base there, and of what we get, it culminates with this other cinematic. There's one sort of kind of in the middle, and this is where we find out that Scale Commander Sarkareth is the one that we're gonna have to fight later on, and they're pretty what's the word I'm looking for? They're pretty aggressive. They have this sort of zealotry feel in a certain way, but it comes a point in time when, after there's a confrontation between Emberthal and Sarkareth's forces, and while there's not a direct clash at that moment, Abyssian shows up. Abyssian, who knew as Ebonhorn, and the two of them, these children of children of Neltharion, have this amazing interaction between the two of them. And rather than try to do justice in describing it, I'm just gonna play it here for you now.
If you were to follow him, what would you do?
Extinguish my enemy, as I was trained to.
By Neltharion. But this time, the enemy is one of your own. As are the Drakthir that follow him. Soldiers who, like you, were conditioned to claim victory at any cost.
How dare you presume to know us? You, who hid among mortals while other dragons fought and died to protect our world.
You're right. I was content to be simply Ebonhorn, and High Mountain was my home. I should have done more.
Why didn't you?
Because I too am Neltharion's offspring, and it brought me only shame. I came here to face that, and found you.
You must be disappointed.
No. Just now, you defied his voice inside you. Chose compassion over violence. Our family does not have to live in his shadow.
Family. When I awoke, they were gone. All of them. For the first time, I was alone. And it terrified me. And when Sarkareth killed the others,
Emberthal, he will face justice for what he has done.
Will you help me, Abyssian?
We will help each other.
It's pretty powerful stuff. Anytime you have to confront what you feel is your nature versus nurture, the actions that you feel like you have to take in your life to make things right, and to reckon with regret or your desire to act in a way that maybe that you shouldn't. These are all familiar themes, I think, to anyone who's been alive. And to see that play out in this way, in this little drama here in this little sub patch, I thought was amazing. It was a powerful stand for them to take, where now you have a divided Drakthir. They're trying to, you have one part of them that's trying to reclaim Neltharion's power in the Forbidden Reach, and now we're sort of left guessing, okay, what happens next? We know that there is this view of Sarkareth where this is the birthright to reclaim this power. And they've wiped out a bunch of other Drakthir in their pursuit of this. And now you have others that are going to try to stop them, which I assume is kind of where our raid is heading. Along with this lead up to 10.1's door, just today as I record this, the 17th of April, we had a new in-game cinematic that was released, where now we find out how Zeralek Caverns, or at least the way into them, were opened up by the primal incarnates. And to make a long story short, Farak turned himself into a Farocket and blew a hole right down into the cavern. All the while, Sarkareth was watching, and all the while, the primal incarnates knew about it. So, seems like they're getting played. It seems like Scale Commander's getting played, and primal incarnates, they're a smart, dangerous bunch, as we've been led to believe, and which continues to make them very compelling villains, and very excited to see where that's going. So far, storyline, we're back on the Forbidden Reach. Everyone's hunting for Neltharian's workshop and his power, and now we're gonna head underground to this huge new land to go search for them or to stop people from getting them. And along with that, we're once again treading into the not an old god expansion stuff territory, where there are books everywhere talking about old god stuff. Mind you, the Forbidden Reach is where Neltharion was corrupted by an old god. We have hints that there may be at least 2 more old gods that we don't know about. And these are just hints from little books and scraps of paper and little things you can loot around the Forbidden Reach. So it's starting to lay that path for the future. I've said before, and I know others have too, that I really truly believe there's a light and void confrontation coming down the road. Old gods, I think, certainly fill that void space, and things are starting to get really interesting looking down that road. And as much as I've enjoyed the opening salvo from Dragonflight, the stakes are starting to ramp up, and I think that is pretty exciting. In the meantime, we've been diving into the Ziskera vaults and getting our keys and jumping in there and doing little puzzles, getting our Onyx Amulet. So far, I think what I'm finding out is that raiding has just ruined me when it comes to activities like this, because I'm so trained now to just go, all right, what am I doing this for? How do I get there? What's the quickest I can get there? Does this help my gear? Does this fill a slot that I need? Like, I've almost kind of forgotten how to just play and have fun and just enjoy a thing for the sake of doing it. Just mindless entertainment, as opposed to, I'm very specifically focused on this goal. And I think the Ziskera Vault is the kind of activity that sort of brings me back to that old, just fun Warcraft feeling of, what? It's just for this patch, and we're checking it out, and we're jumping in, and maybe there's some funny, goofy stuff happening, and you're doing little quests here and there, and it's just fun. It's just fun. Maybe we find some fun stuff along the way. The Onyx Amulet, I got all the stones I needed, I think, within an hour, and I wasn't even trying. And I know I can upgrade it all within the same day. I haven't honestly looked at that too much yet personally, but I know that you could do it very, very quickly. So it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I do question its utility to a point. There was kind of a big deal made out of the Onyx Amulet, but I feel like everyone just kind of got what they needed, and I don't really hear anybody talking about it. So maybe it was a little too underwhelming. Maybe it wasn't a big enough deal. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But overall, I think going around the island, picking up rares, and mostly just trying to figure out where they are, because I feel like half the time when these rares pop up around the reach, I don't quite know how to get to them. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's nice to see just roving packs of people, and you can jump in and get your keys and pick up some gear. It's not always the right specialization or the right type of armor for what I'm looking for, but we can get we can get what we need fairly easily. Haven't done too much of the other activities just yet, but I do want to say God bless the envoys, because working my way up through the Valdrakken Accord rep has been so much easier now that I've got an envoy giving me a little bit of extra. I think it's like a 10% buff and giving me a little extra quests. And yeah, I'm bad. I'm behind. I haven't even gotten to 19 yet, and I need to get there. But I really appreciate that. Hit a little bit of the dragon riding, working my way through that. But some of the other things, pet battles, I don't really do pet battles, but it sounds like people are enjoying some of that, and just kind of getting in the groove of the new place. And so far, what it is, this sort of mid-level patch, I think it's pretty good. I think it's giving us some stuff to do to kill the time. And the funny part is, it's not even gonna be relevant for that long, because here we go. We already have the next full patch announced. Now, if you recall, we had the roadmap that was given to us, I don't know, some time ago. No dates on it, but giving us an idea of things. But here we go, where already it's the middle of April now. It's past the middle of April, and we already know May 2nd is when Embers of Neltharion patch 10.1 is going to hit. The new zone, Zaralek Cavern, is going to be out. We're going to get the new Deathwing's Legacy Endures, is what they call it. New quests related to that. We're going to meet a new faction, the Niffin. This is when we're going to have cross-faction guilds, which I lost that battle. I can't even fight it on here anymore. There's going to be a new dragon riding mount. There's going to be a revamped item upgrade system, some new weeklies, some new activities, including sniffin seeking and snail racing. And then that's all on May 2nd, along with a new dragon riding mount. And then May 9th is when we get the new raid, Aberrus, Shadowed Crucible, which comes with some Farak assaults, new tier sets, and season 2 of PvP. So right around the corner. It's just, the pace that they are setting is just unbelievable. I continue to marvel at their pace. I keep waiting for something bad to happen, for somebody to say something like, oops, that's not what we meant to do. This isn't actually how this is going to work. We've blown up our people, but that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened yet. It seems to be on the up and up. So very happy to see that. And on the next episode, it'll all be 10.1 hype. I don't know. Maybe we make that a live show. Either that one or the one after. But we're probably due for another live Twitch show. So if that's something you want to see, let me know. So that wraps it up on the sort of 10.0.7 end of things. Just a couple more items before I get out of here. Number one, I just want to say you're welcome. To you, my dear listener, to everyone out there, because this episode is going to post on April 18th at 12:05 a.m. because that's when I post my episodes. Sometime between the posting of this episode and the next episode, I feel like that's when BlizzCon is going to be announced. And it's usually right after I drop an episode or in between episodes. So now is a really good time for BlizzCon to get announced. And if it does, I just want to say you're welcome. I sacrificed myself in this show and being topical for that announcement. So you're welcome. And the other item is, if you haven't been checking out the World of Warcraft YouTube page recently, which I don't hear too many folks talk about, but they've had a couple of interesting items coming up as of late. One of them has been Stump Sean, a show featuring Sean Copeland, who is the, I don't know, often, but at times maligned lore master over at Blizzard HQ when it comes to World of Warcraft. He was responsible for the what is it called? I'm looking at it here. I think it was the Exploring Azeroth when it came to the Eastern, to Kalimdor. And I think there was some cultural insensitivity stuff and people were pointing at him. I think he ran himself off of Twitter because people were blowing him up. And I think his wife jumped in. And, you know, I kind of remember him more for drama and disappearing than I do sort of for anything else. But he is their resident lore master. And now there is a sort of game show, if you want to call it that, being rolled out on YouTube, I think an episode a week, where people answer questions, quiz show style against each other with an opportunity at the end to go head to head against him. I bet you can guess how that has gone. They have found the greatest collection of nerds possible to go head to head with each other. The format needs a little work because essentially people can just buzz in before anyone else and get the question read and all of the answers given as multiple choice. And so you don't have to know anything. You don't have to know the question. You can just buzz in and then you get to hear the question and answers and get the opportunity to answer that first. So that part might be a little dodgy. Some of the challenges after that, they're kind of fun. But then, of course, going up against the man himself, no one's going to win. I'm just going to say no one's going to win. I remember when the call for this was put out, I think it was like everybody had to be in LA. So no, you will not see me, and I don't know anybody else that got in, but you know, who knows? Maybe we'll see somebody. So there's that. If you want to check it out, it is interesting. And there have also been some other videos highlighting people within the community, and those I think are always pretty good because you know there's a lot of different people out there that play World of Warcraft, and sometimes when you just focus on your team or your particular thing that you like to do, you know, you might lose sight of all of the various people that are out there and the talents that they may have. So there's some really cool ones out there. One in particular I know has to do with cosplay, which I'm always in awe of people who are able to fabricate these things because they look just unbelievable these days. The skill and artistry involved is really quite something. So if you haven't had a chance to go check those out, the World of Warcraft YouTube page has them all, and those are a couple of items I think you might want to see. All right. I think we've done enough damage for this episode. My thanks to all of you for listening, and remember, you can always follow me and this show on Twitter at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury, as well as on Twitch at Unshackled Fury and Real Berserker. You can also join our Discord, links for which are on the profile of the show on Twitter and on our bonus roll page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or unshackledfury.com. And you can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high, and we'll see you next time. Farewell.